I'm going to call to order the City Council meeting for March 2nd, 2015. Please stand for invocation. Bobby, please.
Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, that you continue to bless us and keep us. We, God, ask you to continue to bless our city council, be with each and every member. Give them the courage, the wisdom to do the things you need them to do. God, continue to bless our community. Help us always to come together. We don't always have to agree, but we can always come together for the goodness of our community. We know we have a caring community, and we ask you to continue to bless us and keep us over all the things we have to try to decide, especially in these type of meetings. God, we ask you to be with our first responders, continue to bless them and keep them safe. Bless all of our city employees, our staff, and all the hard work they do for us to make us have a great community to live in. We ask you, Lord, to continue to bless our mayor and bless all of our leaders. And we ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith.
Present.
Council Vice President Zastavny.
Present.
Councilperson Wadsworth.
Present.
Councilperson Sellers.
Here.
Councilperson Webb.
Present.
Council President Gill.
Present.
Councilperson Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect all 9 council members are present.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. Minutes to be approved. Let's start with the minutes for the council workshop proceedings for February 2nd, 2015.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We got the minutes from the council regular proceedings for February 2nd, 2015.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We got the minutes for the council regular proceedings for February 23rd, 2015.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We've got approval of the agenda, but I would like to make a couple changes actually. Number 10, I would like to move up to, actually make it number 2 right after the tax abatement. So then you'll just have to adjust your numbers on the way down. And then, which is now item number 6, which is the Paul Northern, the green space maintenance. That's going to be tabled because, as you all remember, in Parks Authority, we had the procedure where we're going to Finance Committee, and then we will be bringing that with the salary ordinance at our next meeting. So approve of the agenda, please.
Motion to approve with changes. Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Claims be approved, Amy.
Requesting approval of claims totaling $1,513,355.80.
If there are no questions, I'll motion to approve. Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve the claims for the amount of $1,513,355.80. Any further discussion?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Report of the clerk.
Real quick, been in touch with Jeff High, the audiovisual department, and I've talked with Mr. Tim Dinch, and he's going to work with me on trying to get the council proceedings back on Channel 25. We're going to try it since we have this new system, I'm going to be taking a CD up to him and try it that way to see if because the sound before was from their system, so we'll see if it improves the sound. So we're going to be working together on that.
Good.
That's great. Thank you for doing that. I know we've been trying to get that done for a while. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Was that all you had then? Okay. So let's move on to the unfinished business. Amy Deering, 2015 OR 5, an ordinance for additional appropriation. And can we get that up on the...
Has there been any changes since the first reading?
There have not. Need to open it for a public hearing, please.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open it up for a public hearing on the additional appropriations that you see on the screen behind me. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak? If so, would you please come forward and speak into the mic? Okay, seeing none, then I'm officially,
I wanted to speak about the subject, but it's not involved with the auto wash.
This has nothing to do with
This is a public
Ottawa.
hearing for the appropriation, special appropriation that you see on the screen.
No, but am I going to get to speak? That's, at all?
Did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Are you wanting to speak about this?
No, I want to make sure that I wasn't passed up. Yeah, all right.
I will not pass anybody up. Right. Say, okay, I'm going to officially close this public hearing. Can I entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve
On which readings?
Second and third?
on the second and third.
Okay. We got a motion to pass on the second and third final reading. Is there any further discussion, comments, or questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. I've got Rob Ways. Is Rob presenting for the tax abatement for Trilogy? Good evening, Mr. Ways.
Thank you, President Gill, Council. Very pleased to come up here to talk to you all about a new company that's looking to move in to our area. It's Trilogy. Trilogy has, they have assisted living homes, and the project that they have before us is approximately about a $12 million project for the assisted living facility. It'd be located there on the corner of Charlestown Road and Worley Road. It's in an area that desperately needs some development and a push to move in the right direction. They're looking to have approximately about 100 employees with average wage of around $3 million a year. So I have Peter Macy here with Trilogy.
Thank you. Just a quick background on Trilogy and what we're looking at doing here in Jeffersonville. We're a company that's located right across the river in Louisville. We operate in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. Most of our 89 facilities are located in Indiana. We do not have any in Jeffersonville. We have a couple in New Albany, and we do have a few in Louisville. What we are proposing is, like Rob said, an assisted living and skilled nursing facility with 96 beds, 38 of those being assisted living and 58 of those being skilled nursing. It's a one-story brick, stone, hardy plank, very visually appealing building that will sit on the 14 acres there at the corner. We will be bringing at least 100 jobs. Usually it's around 110. About 65 to 70% of those jobs are full-time. Because of being in the healthcare industry and that sort of thing, a lot of the aides and nurses and that sort of thing like to do the swing shifts, and so that's where you get the part-time positions in. But it's not just skilled nursing. It's also jobs that'll be for from housekeeping to dining to everything else. So this is going to be a wide range of jobs that are needed here in Jeffersonville. Also, as Rob mentioned, the project is estimated to cost around $12 million. We have met with the three main neighborhoods that are surrounding it. We've worked with them on some of their wishes from a landscaping standpoint. We actually moved the building across the street, and so we've worked with them. We have a neighborhood meeting coming up on March 9th, and we feel that we've gotten their approval as well to this point, and so we just think that would be a great fit for Jeffersonville. And do you all have any questions?
I have a question, but it's to our council. For a tax abatement, you need to be in a certain area, right? Is this in this area?
Well, I was just
What's that called again?
Less that. I mean, technically, tax abatements have to be either like in a TIF district or what we call an economic revitalization area. previously designated areas for the abatement. I've asked Mr. Murphy, I think he believes it is, but I've not verified that. Just that location is how they're going to road.
Right. It goes all the way up to Charlestown Pike.
Well, I think we need to check and make sure.
Did you have a question?
The what?
I thought it was Evans Parkway was the intersection.
Right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Merkley, what was that?
Department of Redevelopment has confirmed that it's in that TIF as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Trilogy Health, you all operate two in New Albany, I believe, Silvercrest and
Autumn Woods, correct.
Green Valley, and both of which are top-notch facilities that,
Thank
for
you.
the area. I can speak to that because I work in emergency services. And our guys are in both of those facilities a lot with the company that I work for, and they are top-notch facilities.
And I can speak for the fact that they definitely have gone over and above talking to neighborhoods and addressing the concerns of neighbors and adjacent property owners.
I really appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you. They're going to be neighbors as well, so,
It's good to be good neighbors.
yeah.
Mr.
definitely.
Ways, on the annual fee, that the council normally gets, that's normally 10%, and this is 5%.
Mm-hmm.
So we would like to have that changed back to 10%.
If that's what your wishes are, and then I'll speak with them.
Okay.
And Scott, when somebody makes the motion, they'll have to reflect that in their motion, correct?
Absolutely.
Right.
We're granting it on condition that the fee changes to our customary 10%.
I'll make a motion, we approve 2015R, what's resolution number? 4, with the change of 10% annual fee.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve 2015 R4 with the 10% versus the 5%. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
all.
Council President, there's 2 pages for you, and this one's for
Okay.
you, babe.
Thank you. Okay, so this time we're going to move the auto auction up. Scott, would you like to address the crowd before we start this, please?
Yeah, I've spoken with our council members, our city attorney, Mr. Mosley, who's running against the planning commission, and to make sure that we all do this in an orderly fashion, we're going to allow the applicant, the attorney for the applicant, 15 minutes for their presentation. And then all of the people that signed up for public comment, either for or against, we're going to allow 2 minutes for each person. Have time control, we can be here all night. Also, we want everything to be in an orderly fashion. We're requesting that people do not cheer, clap, or create other sort of discussion that people speak. Just let people speak, and we don't need to have any sort of reaction to that. We just ask people to be polite and respectful in their comments.
Okay. Mr. Applegate, would you like to?
Thank you. Alan Applegate on behalf of Feder Properties LLC, seeking to rezone property containing approximately 44 acres from its existing M2 and C1 classifications to a C2 classification. I'm not going to introduce a lot of the stuff that I introduced at the Plan Commission meeting. It's been a pretty popular topic for the last week or 2 weeks. But we did receive a favorable recommendation for the rezoning at the Plan Commission meeting last week, subject to having a meeting with interested parties to talk about pros and cons and concerns. We met with those folks on Saturday. Many of you were kind enough to join in the conversation also. So rehashing that is, I think, not time well spent. But as stated in the meeting, we visited after hearing all of the concerns and comments and tendered to the city attorney and plan commission attorney today a zoning commitment, which is a voluntary commitment on behalf of Federal Properties to try to reflect in writing some answers or some responses to their concerns. Specifically, many of the concerns were access, and our zoning commitment says that we would not voluntarily seek to open up any roads other than our single access point off of 10th Street. We would not have external loudspeakers or PA system. And we added to the buffering around the property, which we believe goes above and beyond any of your buffering requirements in your zoning ordinance. That is a combination of tree canopy protection, meaning we would leave completely undisturbed a portion of the edges of the property. And within that, inside of that, on our property, we would install berms and plant trees on 20-foot centers on those berms. We had talked about the timing of that at the meeting. I'm not sure I ever got a clear indication of the preferred time. We believe leaving the property as is on that side now is better, but we believe that the consensus from the meeting was, let's make the improvements to the berm now. Let's build the berms when we're developing the property, and we're fine with that. Rather than go through the zoning commitment ad nausea, attorney, a picture speaks 1,000 words, and Mr. Matt Gullo with Covert Hawkins has worked very diligently today to try to put some of these words into a picture. With that, I will introduce Mr. Gullo. Point out while you're talking.
Okay. Good evening, Council. Again, my name is Matt Gullo with Covert Hawkins Architects, 630 Walnut Street. The plan that Ellen has discussed tonight, specifically the improvements that we've decided to make above and beyond what was approved at the Plan Commission. I just want to go over some of those in a little bit of detail. The one entrance off of 10th Street, here's 10th Street, Thompson Lane is at the very back, Woods of North Haven is right here, and then Ashley Square is located to the east. Here's the one entrance that we're planning on having. There are stubs that are on Hall, and then an additional stub road up here that we are not going to be connecting to, and we never had planned on it. So that was one of the things that Alan had discussed. In addition, existing along Woods of North Haven, there was a 45-foot buffer. We have now increased that an additional 20 feet to make it a 65-foot buffer that will remain in condition with no site improvements on it other than berms and landscaping. So if the Fedders ever did decide to improve that, the development beyond what is shown here, they would not be able to exceed past that 65 feet. Right now, we are not planning on doing any of that, and anything above and beyond that would have to come back to the Plan Commission for approval. Specifically talking landscaping, you can see the back of the property here. Thompson Lane runs along the north side. There's an existing tree stand that's going to remain in good condition. There is plans for widening of Thompson Lane. We do not have those plans. We're working with Andy on those, but we have provided originally a 100-foot buffer. We're going to keep that 100-foot buffer between the current edge of pavement, Thompson Lane, and edge of pavement of the back asphalt.
where you see this last berm is where the tree stand starts all the way to the corner of the property. We will push a 4-foot berm up to that tree stand for additional screening, as you can kind of see there. And you can see that we're putting a row of evergreens on top of that stand. We'll make a plateau on top of that berm so that the trees will have a nice area for growth. So it will not just peak and then go straight down. We'll have a nice plateau so that it will allow the trees for good health. And that berm will continue along the back of the property and go all the way down to the very final lot 221, which is the very last lot in the woods of North Haven. We've pushed the detention pond, which is located right here, over and included the berm, which is now located adjacent to the existing tree stand. We'll keep the existing tree stand in good condition with proper protection around the root. And beside it, put that berm, which is again 4 foot high, with and then evergreen, and then I've planted some deciduous trees intermixed with those evergreen. But the evergreen, for the most part, is still 20 foot on center. You can see that it is fairly dense. If we went any denser with those evergreens, I don't, in my opinion, I don't see that as a good way to plant these trees. They get too close. The roots don't have a lot of space to spread. The trees don't get as tall. So the 20-foot center, I think, is optimal for planting those. Finally, this is just the TCPA area. We just show the tree protection area that continues all the way past that last lot at Woods of North Haven. They've also included the TCPA area up along Thompson Lane there. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Well, I know that we have 15 minutes. I would like to reserve some for later. So with that, I think that I will end the Feder portion of the presentation and, of course, remain available for whatever questions you have. Thank you.
I just have one question. What's the difference on the left side from the Woods of North Haven to the actual parking lot area? Yeah.
From the boundary, from the last, from the back of the Woods of Lafayette to the Woods of North Haven to the parking lot is roughly 300 feet.
Okay.
It would be 235 feet, and then the 65-foot area that we're offering as the buffer.
I see our director, Shane Corbin. Is there anything that you need to add before I open up a public hearing? Do you need to speak, or is there anything you wish to add?
Not at this point. Excuse me. Pardon me if I don't try to get up there and get to the microphone. Not at this time. I guess one thing I would add, our buffer yard is calculated with a matrix based on adjacent zoning classifications. There's a minimum setback, and then the buffer yard changes depending on what is next to it.
Yeah, you need to come up here because they can't.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't.
We tried, Shane.
Yeah, she's not going to hear anything.
Do it. I bet he's thinking, I've got to shut up.
Yeah.
He can go out that door.
Sure, there's one.
He said that at this house.
For putting on that spot. You know.
None at this time, and then you go on with the presentation.
Sorry about that. Our buffer yards are calculated based on a minimum rear setback or side setback with a matrix based on the zoning classification that it's adjacent to. I believe, without going through and doing the calculations with all of them, the maximum setback plus buffer yard equals 55 feet. So the one on the side adjacent to North Haven would exceed that by 10 feet.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer anything else if I can.
Thank you, Mr. Corbin. Okay, at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing, and I will start with the proponents of this development. I have a John Wells. Are you here?
saw John's truck out there. He only gave him 2 minutes
Well, somebody
versus
keep
3
time.
minutes, so.
You keeping time?
Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is John Wells, and his home address,
Yes.
801 North McKinley in Clarksville. I have Gray and Wells Collision Center. And I'm just here to support them because I feel it would be a great thing for here. They do a great job of trying to keep their place clean and straight, which we've tried to do too. And it'll get a lot of the cars out of sight from the front. And somebody's kind of trying to bring that kind of money here into town is very, very good for the whole area. And I just wish that everybody could see that and hope that it will go through. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Okay, for the opposition, I have Jill Peterson. Can you please come forward and state your name and your address, please, for the record? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm Jill Peterson. I live at 1610 Jacobs Lane. I basically had the question, is this the right place for this business? Just in looking at the overall plan, it looks fabulous. However, is that really the right place? I did do a little bit of research, got looking at the zoning ordinances and the goal of Jeffersonville itself within its zoning and the plan that we had in place. And basically the R2 district, which is what the Woods of North Haven is basically the goal of that district is to protect, promote, and maintain areas in Jeffersonville for existing and future housing growth. Basically by taking 44 acres and zoning it at C2, where are people going to build when Jeffersonville decides to grow? The houses are basically going to end up going out by Sellersburg, and you're losing more people that way. So the property taxes, you're losing that revenue as well. And as well, as a part of the R2, the Jeffersonville Planning Commission and Board should strive to protect this district from conflicting land uses and non-family oriented businesses. Basically, this business, the stated purpose of the Clark County Auto is to sell to many different outside of the state sources. That's not selling to the people in the neighborhood. That's not bringing in necessarily revenue specifically to the neighborhood. That's not the local Dunkin' Donuts. Yes, they have people that they are employing there, but that's not local, buying local, staying local. As for the C2 district, the goal is not to encourage strip development. It's to minimize lighting, unlandscaped large parking lots, which this one is, parking lots fronting major streets and traffic conflicts. And that's one of the major things that I was looking at. This is going to create a major traffic conflict. They are right in the middle of Jeffersonville. This is not near any interstate, so the people who are towing their cars here and there off the lot don't have access. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a question, Lisa. Can I say something? I just have a quick question. She mentioned R2. Is this not, it says C1 and M2 moving to C2.
That's what it currently is. That's the lot, but the lot that the Woods of North Haven is itself, the lot right next to it is R2.
Okay, thank you.
Renee Lanham, can you please come forward and state? Okay. We got a Kenneth Selmer. Do you wish to speak? Is Kenneth here?
I'm coming.
We'll wait for you. Please say your name and your address, please, for the record.
I'm not much of a public speaker, so bear with me.
That's okay. Take a deep breath.
No one has considered the fact that there's abundant wildlife in those woods that they're planning on tearing down. And as of Saturday, I inquired about this, several of us did, and they had no plan. In fact, it kind of surprised the people that was here representing the Clark County Auto Auction. And until they come up, I mean, these animals got to go somewhere. That's about 40 acres of woods. And these animals have to go somewhere. If they do not some way move them somewhere safe, humanely, then they're going to be running out in the street and getting 10th Street especially and getting wrecked by cars and everything else. And there's deer back there, there's coyote and turkey because we live right across the street in those woods. and they'll come up my yard and eat corn and stuff like that. They're not bothering anybody. Something needs to be done with them. And I think we might want to consider that before we make a motion to pass a zoning thing. Think about those poor animals. And if they don't, and at least table this until they come up with a plan to do something for those animals. Because I'm going to be in contact with PETA and the Humane Society about this. I'm very serious. And another thing is the heat island at a 28-acre blacktop parking lot's going to create in our neighborhoods. I was told by their attorney Saturday that the trees would keep the heat in. I guess he's never heard of breeze that blows gently through trees and spreads heat and all that stuff. Well, something has to be done about that too, because that's just, you know how hot and humid the summers are around here. That's going to be unbearable for the neighborhood some days. Thank you all.
What was your address?
Mr. Sim, what was your address?
326 Thompson Lane.
Thank you.
Okay. Keith Mole?
How about Mr. Kraft to go ahead if that's okay?
Okay.
John Kraft, 126 West Spring Street, New Albany, Indiana, with the law firm of Young, Lynn, Anderson Kraft. Mr. Mull and I kind of switched. I'm not him. I'm not quite as tall as he is, but at the same point, I am going to go forward. I've been retained by a group of the Homeowners Association, and primarily I think what you need to look at are the 5 considerations. While it comes to you with a favorable, it comes to you not with a unanimous favorable. Those 5 considerations are Indiana Code 3674603. First item of consideration is comprehensive plan. I'm sure that all of you have probably taken this and looked at it and made a determination from your comprehensive plan. When you look at the land use plan, this does not comply. Under the terms on page 125 under your land use plan, under the comprehensive plan, you have to deal with preservation of the existing established residential areas and proposed buffer protection from future non-residential developments, including the buffering of single-family homes from multifamily uses. That's one of the areas, but a point of order that I would ask, and I'm presuming Ms. Conlon may have it, but prior to you all even hearing this has to be certified to you by the Plan Commission, and I'm presuming that she has received the certification of the decision by the Plan Commission, because it can't be put on your agenda under 3674600 series without a certification of that. So I guess point of order, I would ask if that's been certified. It has been certified. Thank you. The other issue that I think is important is you look at the land use plan under the comprehensive plan and what those are specifically set out. This is shown to be residential. And why that becomes important is because this is being changed to a C2 district. Under the terms of your ordinance,
We can pass them down. So.
okay, thank you. That'll help me with my time.
Well,
Under your C2 district, and what I've highlighted is important because you cannot, under your own intent of a C2 district, you cannot put this next to an R1 or an R2. If you look at what has been placed there, the district can be used adjacent to all other commercial districts and the R3, M1, and M2 residential. However, buffering should be provided between this district and any residential district. The only 3 residential districts under your ordinance are R3, M1, and M2. It does not allow a rezoning of a C2 to this particular zoning based upon those surrounding residential uses that are not R3, M1, or M2. Again, I would urge you to look at the 5 considerations under 3674603. First and foremost, doesn't meet the comprehensive plan. If you look at current conditions and uses surrounding it, as indicated, it's residential. Most desirable use, once again, your comprehensive plan, while it is a guide, it is a direction, specifically indicates that it is the objective to maintain existing single-family neighborhoods. Again, I would urge you to deny the request this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Mull.
Thank you. Hand out something on that you think you kind of passed around. This is a copy of not only the C2 district statement of intention, but also other district statement of intention to make a certain point. I would like to make piggybacking on something Mr. Kraft said.
he suggested to you, that's our position, that the proposed rezone here simply is not permitted by your statute. The reason we think this is because, as the plain language of the statute says, that it can be adjacent to certain kinds of districts, but not others. One of the districts, zoning districts that this new application is next to is in R2, which is not among the enumerated districts permitted in the C2 notice or statement of intention that you have in front of you right there today. We have a difference of opinion, obviously, about what that means. And in the Plan Commission meeting, if you were here, your counsel offered a different opinion, which, of course, is his right. I feel for Les because I sat in your shoes before, too, and I know how difficult it is to offer an immediate legal opinion when you don't have a lot of notice or chance to look into things. But I would offer to you that we have looked into things and want to offer a few tools to you for interpreting what your statute means, since there is a difference of opinion here. And the tools I want to proffer to you are just basically three things that the courts have said you need to consider, or that the courts will look at when they interpret a statute. And finally, when it comes down to it, the courts are the ones who interpret statutes, ordinances, and laws for us. They interpret any part of the ordinance by looking at the whole ordinance. That's the first thing. That's why I've given you these other statements of intent on these other districts as well. The second is they are to avoid interpretations that render portions of the ordinance meaningless or useless or produce an absurd result. And three, there is a principle of interpretation that says that enumeration of certain things in an ordinance necessarily implies exclusion of others. Now, I haven't cited a lot of case law because you really don't want to hear it, but I've got it. But case law basically follows these principles of statutory interpretation when there is an ambiguity in an ordinance. I've given before you there these four zoning classifications, which are your C1 through I2, various commercial industrial zoning classifications. Because what you look at there is look at your whole ordinance. We've got one particular sentence here that we're interpreting.
Finish your sentence.
Okay, well, what you need to do is look at your entire ordinance, and if you do, I think you'll see a progression in more restriction on on being adjacent to residential uses as you move along, and the interpretation that's being suggested to you is one by council is one that does not fit with that whatsoever. Moreover, your statute specifically enumerates things that can be done. If the interpretation of the statute is that you can do this, doesn't mean you cannot do that, then having any kind of can language in there is superfluous and meaningless. If you can do next to these zoning classifications, doesn't mean you cannot do it next to others. There's no reason to have that sentence in there in the first place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Mull, thank you.
I have a Jason, looks like Schlatter.
I talk pretty loud. I'm tall, so I'm not going to bend over this thing.
Your name and your address for the record.
I'm sorry, I apologize. My name is Jason Schlater. I live at 440 Thompson Lane. I have worked on many large-scale projects in my life. University of Louisville, Papa John's Cardinal Stadium for 2 years, River Falls Mall for about a year, Churchill Downs for about 2 years. On those projects, I did a lot with parking lots. What I'd like to do right now is just take time to give a visual. Let's say that each of these windows are 20 foot on center, and these yellow parts represent the trees, full grown, okay? Let's turn the lights off in here. These window sills are about 2.5 feet tall. This is about your 4 foot wall, okay? Let's turn all these lights off. Let's have everyone in here go outside and turn their cars on. This room is going to light up. Regardless if you've got deciduous trees in between here and those cars, which is about 65 feet, it's still going to light up in here. If the Clark County Auto Auction ultimately goes here, I implore the council, and I have provided you all with documentation, that the parking lot that's being proposed is the size of the parking lot of Myers and Coles there on 10th Street in Allison. I implore you all to block the light. If in true fact that you implement this, I'm not going to debate anything about what the laws are, because there's very good attorneys here that is representing the clients, and it doesn't get much better than the attorneys that are here. If we turn all the lights off and we grow trees out here 65 feet and everyone in this room goes out there and turn their car lights on, this room is going to illuminate. That's the same thing that's going to happen with all the houses that are around that area. One last thing. we're hearing a $6 million contribution. 40 houses alone in North Haven, say again? Okay. 40 houses alone in Woods and North Haven, just 40 is a $6 million contribution. 80 is 12. 120 is 18 million. So let's not allow the $6 million investment skew our decision on what actually could be on this lot. That's all I have to say. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I truly do appreciate Clark County Autos Auctions business and the presentation they have presented, but we can't ignore the facts.
Thank you. That is all that's on my list. So this time I'm going to close the public hearing. Mr. Applegate, was there anything that you wish to add?
I thought I had some time reserved to...
He had 6 minutes, if it matters.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. Oh, sorry. I wish I knew how to use this thing. Thank you. This is 10th Street. This is Allison Lane. All the circled items are areas where C2 is located next to R1 or R2 in your city currently. This circle was adopted since the enactment of this ordinance. And this circle was adopted since the enactment of this ordinance. It is my opinion that your ordinance allows this. Let's not use terms in the ordinance that are superfluous. This is your buffer yard standards. If C1, C2 cannot be next to R2 or R3, or R1, I'm sorry, then these items would be blank. They would say not applicable because you can't have C2 next to R1 or R2. So the buffer yard standards envision C2 next to R1 or R2. As to abundant wildlife, we will do what the developer of their subdivision did and what the developer of all subdivisions do, and that's comply with federal law in developing the property. I think I've spoken to the comprehensive plan, the best interests of the community, taking all factors into account. I think your documents here indicate that it's been considered in the past and favorably approved. As to turning car lights on, I know that everybody's concerned about that. This business is going to be open 1 or 2, open for auction, public use, 1 or 2 days a week. They're not having 24-hour traffic coming in, as opposed to the M2 and all other residential classifications. Our client has really tried to make everybody happy, and you just cannot please everyone, it appears, although we've tried very hard. But I think that this presentation here addresses some of the lawyers' comments earlier, and I think it's a great project. These are some of the dollars. We've talked about assessments and values and investments. As you know, residential real property is a homestead. All of these are homesteads and would therefore have homestead exemptions, as opposed to this commercial property, which will have 3 times the assessed value maximum assessment. So I believe that, in terms of dollars, tax dollars, real property tax dollars, this is a very big investment, number one. But it doesn't take into account all of these tertiary benefits. And I think you all are well aware of that, and I won't drone on about it. But I did want to address some of the comments that we've heard previously, and so that you all have as clean a picture as you can in making your very informed and personal votes. Thank you.
Mr. Applegate, is there any auctions at all Friday or Saturday, Sundays? There's no,
I will have Mr. Fetter speak to that. Mr. Webb?
Yeah, we are actually having our first Saturday auction, April 25th, I believe is the date. It's a classic car auction. It's at 10 a.m. But typically no.
no weekend, no night auctions on Fridays or Saturdays?
No, we have one on Wednesday
Wednesday.
from about 6 to 8:30.
Matt, if I could ask, and I know this is hypothetical, but one of the questions that was asked Saturday at our function was how late do the auctions go?
Yeah.
What do you think the latest auction?
At the very latest, 9 p.m., but typically 8:30.
Okay.
And in regards to the headlights, most of the time it's light, half the year it's light until then.
And that's on
And-
Wednesday nights, correct?
Correct. And the vehicles in the rear of the lot won't be moving. It's the ones towards the building. That's where the sale day activity will occur.
And while you're there, I think you also mentioned Saturday that you were thinking about adding another day to the, just so the public
That is-
knows for your auction. Will you?
That is correct. We are considering a dealer-only sale that would begin once we move into this new building. And we presume that will be Tuesday, probably around 10:30.
In the morning.
In the morning, yes.
I'm curious as to whether or not the project that you're suggesting would in any way change the water runoff demographics of the neighborhoods.
That's probably a Matt question.
Is this still on? That's a great question. Currently, the water runs from the back of the site to the front of the site. There's a low point right by Hall Lane right here, and then there's the lowest point at the corner of the property right here at 10th Street. There will be water running off the site. We are putting one detention basin here and a retention basin here. Currently, the water runs and there's an inlet at Hall Lane. I'm not privy to what that does to the residents along that site. We will catch all the water before it hits that inlet right there and send it all toward 10th Street, retaining it before at a normal outflow according to Jeffersonville's drainage board, and then drain it into the 10th Street swale. So we will actually improve the drainage on this site.
Will the berm help with that as well?
The berm will not allow any water that's actually along here to get further into that, and we'll try to catch most of that, and again, put it into that detention pond in right here. So, yes.
I know you stated how far that was. I didn't hear where that blacktop is to where the borderline is to the west side. How far?
From the property on the west side to the edge of pavement is approximately 300 feet, 297 feet.
Mr. Corbin, did you have anything that you wanted to rebuttal, especially what the two attorneys had to say? No?
Well, I think we need to ask one.
Mr. Merkley, would you like to address what their two attorneys had to say? Is there anything you needed to add, or?
I disagree with their interpretation. I think, first of all, the language that they're referring to is the intent of the district. And secondly, again, I will stress, as I stated at the planning commission meeting, the language simply says this district can be used adjacent to all their commercial districts and the R3, M1, and M2 residential districts. Then it goes on and says, however, buffering should be provided between this district and any residential district. And it's my opinion, my interpretation is that this does not limit only to the R3, M1, and M2. Again, our ordinance even contemplates that we're going to be using this adjacent to those other districts because in application, it's in our ordinance.
You'll have to help the clerk because they couldn't hear what you were saying.
You didn't speak into the microphone.
Oh.
I need a microphone over here.
No, I know, we've tried.
Well, we can,
I-
FCC will allow.
I disagree with opposing counsel, and I will state again, as I stated at the Planning Commission, the language that they're referring to is the district intent, the intent of the C2 district, which specifically says that this district can be used adjacent to all other commercial districts in the R3, M1, and M2 residential districts. Again, I think the important language there is can be. It's not shall be or can only be. It says can be, and again, this is under the intent of the ordinance, giving us guidance. And as Mr. Applegate has referenced, our own ordinance even contemplates that the C2 would be used adjacent to the other residential districts, including R1, and evidently since this zoning code was adopted, we've allowed that to happen, so evidently this is not the first time that this is how this ordinance has been interpreted. So that's my opinion, and I'm sure Scott can give his opinion as well.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with,
I don't know, I think Les spoke very well about the interpretation, our interpretation of that zoning ordinance, and I agree with both Les and with Mr. Applegate, that I don't believe that the language that's being cited by Mr. Kraft or Mr. Mull is mandatory language when they're saying that the C2 cannot be next to the C1. I believe the language, when taken as a whole, interpreted using the language such as intent, should, and can be, is contemplated that you can have the C2 next to the R1. So I stand by Mr. Merkley and Mr. Applegate's opinion.
While you're up there, Mr. Lewis, you had a chance to look over the agreement and you were fine with that?
Are you talking about the zoning commitment?
Mhm.
That includes the additional tree canopy protection and additional buffer protection? Yes, I'm fine with the legal language. I was just curious do you have a signed copy? Has that been signed yet, Mr. Applegate, by your client, the zoning commitment, or?
No, I prepared, I brought one if you need them to sign it tonight.
Okay.
Do we not have to enter that into record, or?
Well, yes, I mean, depending upon what motion you all take, I think it's obviously going to be, if it's a favorable motion, obviously part of that motion would be that you're accepting the signed zoning commitment, which will be recorded. I think that's the terms of your zoning commitment, that it shall be recorded.
We intend to record it. I had not gotten approval. I didn't want to just tender something that council had not approved, so I do have one if we need to execute that, or if you want to make the zoning condition upon the execution of it.
I guess
yeah,
we'll,
it could be contingent upon whatever motion you take. I think for the record, we got to make sure that the clerk has a copy of that zoning. You have an extra copy, Mr. Applegate. So we want that placed in the record, that would be something that's being considered.
Mr. Lewis, too, the zoning commitment is transferable with the sale of the property. If somebody else took ownership of it, just for everybody's knowledge, it's not like they could all of a sudden have access to these roads because of different properties.
It runs with the land, the covenants that run with the land, meaning that it's subsequently.
So those buffers would stay there and the roads would not be accessible. Is that correct?
That's correct.
okay.
Please, I would just comment that I've spoken with a lot of property owners surrounding it across the street on 10th Street. We had the church, I think, came and represented, and I work at Child Place, which is directly across the street. And the unique thing about this is the frontage is a commercial corridor, and we're trying to expand our commercial corridor, and this certainly fits that, while the back of the property is surrounded by neighborhoods. And I would just express my appreciation to the Fedders and the Clark County Auto Auction for having multiple meetings. They've gone, in my opinion, above and beyond what most developers do with trying to answer questions. And after hearing, I was unable to be at the meeting on Saturday, but hearing the commitment they did and the zoning commitment that Mr. Applegate's trying to locate.
It's being signed.
Okay, from Ms. Conlon. The fact that they're going that additional expense, expanding the setbacks, to me, they've heard the concerns, tried to address them the best that they could. And
So with that, I would make a motion to approve 2015 OR 11. Is that correct, Ms. Conlon? Expecting maybe more discussion, but I'll put that motion on the...
I'll second, so we go open for discussion.
Could you hold for just a second, Mr. Applegate?
Yeah, with the additional...
The Fetters have been very amenable to suggestion, and, they've interacted well with the neighbors. I got to talk into the mic.
Turn it off.
But if this is approved at this point in time, does that indicate that any further discussion about possible changes or amenities, would be foreclosed?
I think that as you've seen, the Fetters have been fairly open to suggestions. I don't want to speak for them. I know that, personally, I'm a little at wit's end, but I think that discussion should happen if the football field worth of distance is ever diminished. And that has to happen then, because that's a change in the development plan that the Plan Commission approved. And I think that discussion is for a later time, but it's one that can't be avoided under your ordinances anyway. Whether they continue to speak, I'm speaking for them now without having them come up and say yes or no, but I don't think the Fetters want to have constant complaints to the courthouse or otherwise, but nor do I think that should there be a great wall built around this property and have it cordoned off from the rest of the community. Is that a fair enough answer? Or
Fair enough.
Okay, I have a motion.
I don't think you technically close the public hearing, so I think we gotta make sure we close the public hearing before we get the motion.
He did close it.
I did close it, but then I closed it, but I was going to allow him to speak after I closed the public. It was either before or okay, I officially closed the public hearing. Now I will entertain that motion again, please, Mr. Samuel.
Make a motion to approve 2015 OR 11 with the inclusion of the zoning commitment that was being signed by the Fetters.
Also contingent upon it being recorded in the Clark County Recorder's Office.
Yes.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, so I got a motion and a second for the passage of 2015 OR 11, a contingent on the agreement being recorded. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say one thing. I've made just about every meeting, well, I think I've made every meeting that the Fetters have had and that I've been aware of. And I want the neighbors to know that it's very rare when you get a business to step up and try and compromise. And that compromise came out of the public meetings. And one of the questions that I asked at the end of the last meeting that we had here Saturday was, you all had a list of concessions that you would like for them to consider. And I asked a question, who actually requested these? Who made this list of concessions? And it seemed to be about half, maybe, of the people that were in the room. Not everybody was involved in that. But again, I just want to say that it needs to come to public meetings, it needs to come to public discussions to meet compromise so that all voices are heard, the developers as well as the neighbors. And then if the developers are willing to compromise, I think that's a huge step. So, food for thought.
And I just wanted to add that I want to thank the neighbors that contacted me as president of the council. I know this is a very emotional thing for you all because this is where you live. These are your homes. This is where you want to raise your family. And I applaud you all for just having those open and honest conversations with me. I do believe with having that public meeting Saturday that we got a lot of your concerns and they were heard, and that you were willing to compromise and work with the Fetter family and then also to the Fetter family. I applaud you all for hearing those concerns and also working with them. You did not have to enter into that agreement, and I want everyone here in attendance to know that you were willing to do that. It's going to be recorded, and you did that for peace of mind for the homeowners and the neighbors, even the future neighbors that are going to, because I don't think Woods of North Haven is even finished yet, so thank you for that.
If I could also add, last Tuesday's meeting I came and to the Plan Commission in support of a project, and that was, in large part because I had been able to review the plans that had been put together by the architect ahead of time. And where I grew up, a couple of years ago, where I grew up, where I lived, our property backed up to a wooded area, a large wooded area that was mostly untouched for most of my childhood. And that wooded area became the Keystone Industrial Park. And my parents got the lights shining in the backyard, and my parents got the people walking up and down the train tracks because they were walking to and from work. And if I thought that this development was going to be that sort of intrusion into your neighborhood, I assure you I would vote against it. I appreciate the Fedders. I've known Clark County Auto Auction since I've been on the council through the 10th Street Business Association. But the integrity of your neighborhoods is important. I don't want anyone to feel like you're being disregarded. And I appreciate those who have reached out via email. I've had a couple calls. I want you to understand that I really don't see this as the intrusion that we experienced where I grew up. And if I did, I would certainly vote against.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay. I think Major Lynch, you're taking the chief's place for the training request.
Do we want to give a moment for the room to clear?
Minute to clear the room.
Take a break. I guess we're going to take a break.
Yeah, we can take a
So they can clear the room. Well, I figured by the time he made it for this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess to allow the room to clear out, and then we will hear Major Lynch. Yeah.
They did it Saturdays.
I made that 2 different sheets.
Looks like Rob Wade.
No, I mean, the whole thing, you did, but you said everything, very good.
Solo cut.
Yeah, don't forget anything.
I did.
Yeah.
Hold it up here. That hold it up to
Oh, I'm down with like
Watching you put something.
Somebody's in the restroom?
I couldn't hear in the back. Did y'all talk to me some up here?
We did.
I can sit down now.
There you go, Tommy.
I guess we're all going to be in the hallway, though. I just hope that once the door shut, they'll be. Yeah, we gotta wait till they get back because our attorneys are occupied.
As long as I come out ahead, I don't care.
Elizabeth, we just took a little recess so they could clear the room.
You didn't miss anything. Richard would tell you if you did.
Terminated.
And actually, Major Lynch, once our clerk comes back, then we'll...
Yeah.
But,
Really, I've been up since 3, so
we got kicked out of the house.
3 a.m.
That sounds like a personal problem.
No, all the people are
Running through this meeting through my mind.
Saturday, I'll try to make a little.
Well, they said it was his first, it was a special auction. It's a special thing for the classic cars.
I had,
Doing good,
they
yeah.
usually closed on me up until midnight.
Okay. Knock on
Oh, they're going to the,
I'm waiting.
Losing control, you're losing control.
huh? Oh, okay.
It's a good visual.
I mean, facts don't cease to exist because they're ignored.
Who knows?
I don't see him. Where did Vicky go?
Now, where'd
She might have
Vicky
had to
go?
go to the restroom.
Can we go ahead and start then?
Well,
Well,
we just had to
missing
go.
two council
We went to the
people.
restroom.
Traction.
We're missing one.
I think, yeah. I think it's a fair question.
Let's move on. We're gonna be here all night.
Okay. Mr. Wadsworth, can you take your seat, please, so we can continue? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sit down.
You better watch it, man.
Major Lynch,
I get dirty
you've got the
looks for trying to
floor.
All right, thank you. Major Lynch, Jeffersonville Police Department. Come and talk to you about two training requests that we've got before you that will involve travel cost. The first one is a symposium on child abuse. We're intending on sending our detectives that investigate child crimes against children. And that is in March at Huntsville, Alabama. We've done our research. We wanted to send the investigators to a course, and this was what was recommended to us by the FBI and state and local agencies.
Josh, both these trainings are in your budget?
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, all those
And I'm good.
in
You came at
favor
the right
signify
night.
by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Major Lynch.
Gonna ask for anything else while you're here?
I abstained on that.
Okay, Amy Deering, we have the ordinance of additional appropriation, and there will be a public hearing on March 16th, 2015 to this matter. Correct.
Amy, the only
Yes.
question I have on this one is for both
Let's
merit,
put it up, please.
for both merit boards, the additional appropriation, if I add it up, it's going to reflect the same reduction, right?
That's correct on police and fire merit.
Right.
It's already in the budget. We're just
Right.
cleaning
We're
it
just
up.
Splitting it up a little bit, making it more easy to read.
Well, can I have this,
Sure.
She had her own microphone.
Speak into the mic, please. Name and address.
Amy and I talked about that. Since I'm now doing the claims for the police and fire merit board, they were given one lump sum. You all gave them one line item budget. And in order to streamline it and to make sure easy for them and also easy for you all at budget time, that's why we asked them to break it out. Because when you give one a certain amount and another a certain amount, and then they come back to you for an appropriation, you have no idea what's being spent and how it's being spent for. So this makes it cleaner for you all at budget time and also cleaner for them throughout the year. And that was a request that I had gone to Amy and I had talked about.
Hey, Vicki, while you're there, I have a question. I had talked to you too about the salaries. It shows that because police and fire by ordinance is set up the same, it shows that the police general members make $6,000 and you've got the fire merit $24,000.
Right. Now these budgets, I didn't do the budgets. These were what each commission submitted to us. According to the way the salary ordinance has been written, I went back all the way from when both of these commissions started, and I had also looked. It said $1,200 annually or $100 a month. So this is what they submitted to us.
But it needs to be uniform, so we...
I don't, yeah, we're monitoring that. So, yeah, I mean, you all can do this any way you want, change these numbers any way you want.
well, I think it needs to be changed to what our ordinance says. Not,
I'm not disagreeing, I just said
this
this
needs
is,
to be changed then to, how many merit board members are there for the fire?
Five.
How much?
There's 5.
There's 5. How did it get up to 24,000?
They was,
They were being paid per meeting.
that's not, what was.
And then when they were doing interviews and
We can approve it on the first and
Yeah.
Make
have
the
her
change.
modify it for the next.
Yeah, let's do that.
Motion to approve 2015 OR12 on the first reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for 2015 OR 12 for the first reading. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. Scott Lewis, an ordinance establishing Worley Athletic Complex non-reverting fund.
Yes, pursuant to our last meeting when we spoke about the need to establish a non-reverting fund for the Worley Athletic Complex, this is almost identical to previous ordinance from a couple years ago when we set up a non-reverting fund for Visiting Park, just so we can keep the expenses allocated and itemized. So what this ordinance simply does, we talked about transferring a certain amount of money for some sort of anticipated or proposed expansion at the Worley Athletic Complex, which may also include property acquisition. So this is just a fund set up to allow that transfer funds to be put into a non-reverting fund, so all the expenses, future expenses could be tracked and itemized.
Mr. Zestani, as president of the parks, there's been a lot of misconceptions. There's been a lot of falsehoods out there in the public that I've been hearing. Would you like to address this, please?
Well, I think Mr. Lewis kind of addressed it. I mean, we're setting up a fund for possible future use. We're designating that future use as expansion of Worley Athletic Complex. Not sure what that's going to look like at this time. We've looked at purchasing land. We've looked at building a building, but there's no contracts in place. There's no money being spent at this time. We're just creating a fund to put some money for possible expansion in the future.
And I'd also like for the record to show this is not for a $3 million parking lot.
Motion to approve 2015 OR 13.
Question. We have,
Mr. Smith was one to talk about this too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he here?
Oh.
He said he was going home.
He what?
Said he was going home.
He had no comment.
Am I right? Yeah.
He said he would come back at maybe the next meeting. He said he didn't want to wait around for all of the prior auto auction
So what
public
was the
comment.
motion for what reading?
First.
Got a motion and a second for 2015 OR 13. Any further discussion, questions, or comments?
Is there somebody else who's?
Well, we have public comment though. I mean, on the agenda, it's at the end of the meeting, but if they want to.
They've already
Okay.
missed.
Sure.
Oh, I thought you had them all.
I thought you had them all too.
Mm-mm. I had no idea. I apologize.
That's all. I don't know if that's the same one or not.
And just to clarify, there will be a public,
Yeah, there'll also be a official public hearing next meeting, but let's see here. The soccer field. Okay, Ron Smith, he'll speak next time. Are you Alice Butler?
Yes.
Okay, you may come, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Alice Butler, 1773 Summerlin Place. And I sent emails to all of you on the board. Only 3 of you were kind enough to respond, and I really appreciate the 3 of you who responded. I appreciate taking interest in what the public has to say. I'm here because I just wonder, does the city really need to be the owner and operator of a large indoor sports complex? Is that the city's role? You know, and what is the true total expected cost of this project? How many people will really benefit? Will fees be charged to use the facility? How much will the annual ongoing maintenance and personnel costs be? How much are you paying per acre for land? And how many acres are you planning to purchase? Is there a pro forma income and expense statement for this project? And is it available to the public? Is this really the best location for this sports facility? Why not attempt to get a private company to build this complex, not the city? If this is to be profitable, it should be a private business. Let the Clark County Soccer Association own and operate this facility. not the city of Jeffersonville. It seems to me that this indoor complex is just the dream of the Clark County Soccer Association and some people on this council. And it's wonderful to have a dream like that, but it's not the city's responsibility to fulfill everyone's dream. Is this really the best use of taxpayer dollars? Much more information needs to be provided to taxpayers before you go ahead with this costly project. Please vote no to establish a non-reverting fund at this time. We need more transparency in government. Thank you.
And that's all I had on the public comment that was signed up.
We already have a motion and a second. Did we already take, oh, yeah.
We already did a motion?
Motion and second, yeah.
We got a motion and a second.
I apologize.
Is there any other discussion?
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We've got Les Merkley, a resolution approving the interlocal agreement between Clark County School System authorizing transfer of land.
This comes to you from the Greater Clark County School Board. It is an interlocal agreement basically for purposes of doing some road work around the Wilson, Wilson School. I don't know why the school corporation felt it was necessary to do an interlocal agreement. We could have simply just done this by resolution between the two boards, but they evidently felt it was important to do an interlocal agreement. They are basically transferring property to the city so we could do the road work, and we will be owning the city. Or we will be owning the property.
What road work are we
Can
doing?
you tell us about?
Right around Wilson. I know you were going to ask specifics, and I wish Andy was here because Andy is the engineer and knows more about the project.
I thought they were.
It's to address, we're trying to avoid everyone when they pick up the kids, they're lining up out on the road, and this will allow them to get, hopefully, everyone off the road into Wilson, so we don't have
One
a
plan
safety issue.
that was old, and so I'm assuming it's not this plan, but was to close it off, and I don't want to support
No, that's not closing, no, we're not closing it off.
Okay.
Is this on Veterans Parkway or is it on Charlestown Pike?
I believe it's on Charlestown Pike. No, we're not closing it off. I remember that plan, Nathan,
It is a problem at that intersection.
yes, it is. It's a safety issue.
I'm just not at all clear on what this is doing.
Yeah.
This is the one thing in the packet that I'd just...
At Wilson, they now line up to pick, because I guess the policy is that the kids have to be dropped off in the car. So there's not enough room out there for all the cars to line up, so they end up out on Charlestown Pike. This is allowing us to rework that road to give Wilson the ability to have more space to line up the cars so they're not on Wilson.
So basically, they're giving us the property, and we're going to put in a deceleration lane.
Yes.
Okay. And that's all the property that they're giving us for that?
Yes, just for that. We're not having, it will not be any property we have to maintain or anything. It's just for grass. We're not, no.
I'm just checking.
No.
We mow grass everywhere else.
Until we put
Okay.
asphalt down.
Is this 5?
Yes.
What's the resolution?
Yeah, what's the number?
5.
Motion to approve 2015 R5. Second.
Got a motion, a second, to approve 2015 R5. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Merkley, you're still up. We have the Plan Commission recommendation to Jeffersonville Common Council to amend 2015 OR 8 portions of the Jeffersonville zoning ordinance 2000 OR 61, which is the Utica Pike Overlay District.
I'm going to turn this over to Shane. This comes to you upon a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. We are, and Shane can speak in more detail, we are amending our zoning code to make some changes, or more specifically to clarify some, there were some problems with the language in reference to the Utica Pike Overlay District, and Shane can mention that.
switch to the overhead? Sorry. Good evening. As you all are probably aware, we had a project come through not long ago, Villages of Perrin Point, Section 2 and Section 3, which was a project that involved a historic home and the development of single-family homes for planned development. So that did come in front of you all, at least most of you. I'm not sure if the newer members were here for those meetings or not. But in the process of reviewing and taking that to the public meetings, one of the things we heard from folks was that they wanted the language in the Utica Pike overlay, which you can see here is actually outlined in red, updated and more clear. We did some research and we found out that when the original Perrin Point was done, some language was proposed, which got translated into an ordinance, which didn't match the language that was proposed. The ordinance was recorded, and the language in the ordinance that got put in our zoning code, which is what we use to review developments, didn't match that either. So there were all kinds of holes in that, and so this is an effort to try to strengthen that language and make it a lot more clear. Also, as you've seen tonight, attorneys will occasionally try to interpret the zoning ordinance to fit, a desired outcome, and to eliminate that, we've gone a step further and done what our ordinance doesn't always do, and we've included design guidelines that go along with that language, so it's very clear that you can't misinterpret what we're getting at. And one of the big things, I mean, I can go through all of them, but one of the big things is front setback along Utica Pike. We're going with 75 feet, which is in our current ordinance. What our ordinance stops short of is saying, or the average of the adjacent structures, excuse me, whichever is greater. So in this case, if you had a home at 80 feet and one at 150 feet, your setback would be right in between there, so you would have a visible, smooth line. You wouldn't have one that unit that came out and jutted out at 75 feet. So we did that. We also said that you cannot include planned developments. If it's adjacent to a planned development, it goes back to the unit on the other side of the planned development. Because planned developments can get around all of our typical regs. So we've included that. Average lot size is average of the adjacents. Again, skips the PUD if it's adjacent to a PUD. And for instance, if you think of Bubby Bissing's home next to the Villages of Perrin Point, if you were going to calculate an average setback for his structure, it would skip the Villages and go to the regular house lot on the other side. Same with average lot width and average rear setback and side setback and minimum lot frontage. Again, it takes the averages, so anything that gets built is going to fit in with what's around it. That's the long and short of what this amendment does.
Shane, I've talked to a few neighbors out here on this, and I have yet to see a diagram. I know we went from 5 houses to 4 houses, and I've yet to see, and I've rode past the lot a few times, and I'm still trying to envision how they're going to get 4 units.
You're talking about the last one that came through?
Yeah.
No,
I'm talking about this one.
No,
this is the overlay.
Oh, okay.
This is the language for the entire overlay.
I'm with you.
To address, and it came out of the concerns and the conversations that we had with those neighborhoods about, we want to strengthen the language in our ordinance. Okay. And so, we paid attention to that, and we went and pulled all the historic documents, found the problems, and have come up with a new, clear set of guidelines. I believe that it's much more clear than it was.
How far down the pike does this apply to?
This goes
point? I mean,
to this point right here, and
where the turn is on Utica Pike.
Let's see.
It doesn't go that far.
To about Allison Lane.
Yeah.
Past, here's Perrin Park,
Okay.
there's Pawnee, here,
No, it doesn't
stops right here.
Plans to maybe the
Extend.
rest of the pike?
We don't currently have that. If we were, we could do that, but that would involve multiple public meetings. I wouldn't do that administratively. Something that we would want to advertise to the public and make sure that all the homeowners along the pike had an opportunity to weigh in on what those changes would be.
Well, and I guess I was using that
Yeah,
one on
because what
Utica
Dennis-
Pike as an example for this.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I don't see how,
What's the setback on that, 30
I-
foot,
it couldn't be much.
20
Which one?
on the turn? I
Talking
know
about
that-
the
Where the turn
Utica
is on
Pike
Utica
or-
Pike where they're putting 4
It's
houses.
not in
They
the
had
overlay.
5.
Oh, that one,
It just
yes.
came up.
That one is not in the overlay, and the turn's
I
on the
know
right-hand
that,
side.
But what I'm
Mhm.
saying,
How does that compare?
yeah, how does that compare with what they're doing?
Well, so they would have a typical R1 setback, and off the top of my head, I don't remember what that is. It's probably 35 feet.
Yeah.
It's probably somewhere around in there, 35 feet. So they don't have any homes built on there yet, or any even proposed yet. They just carved out subdivision lots. If we were to expand these standards up all the way up the pike, then the design of that subdivision would be different than it is, but we don't currently have that language in our code.
Shane, at this
They
time,
must be
I'd like to
turning
open up the
sideways.
public hearing. Is that okay?
No frontage road.
Okay, I'm going to open up at this time the public hearing. Is there anybody here that wish to speak for or against the overlay? Will you come forward, please, and state your name and your address for the record? Okay. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to officially close the public hearing.
Is there any more questions if you need me to?
Ordinance number?
14.
Motion we pass in the first reading, or, yeah, it'd be first, is it all in one?
Yeah.
For, just one, okay.
Zoning is-
Motion we pass 2015 OR 14.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, a second to pass 2015 OR 14 concerning the Utica Pike Overlay District. Any further questions, concerns, or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you. I believe I've got one more.
Yes, we have, and this also, council will have a public hearing. This is for the recommendation for Jeffersonville Common Council to amend 2015 OR 10 portions of Jeffersonville zoning ordinance 2000 OR 61.
Thank you. Currently, we have assisted living facilities that are a special exception in our M2 district and a permitted use in our M3 district. We have an aging population, just like every community across the U.S., and planners everywhere are talking about how do we sort of manage this. I believe this is an item in our M1 zoning code that could be amended. Obviously, we have Trilogy that just came through, or is about to come through the Planning Commission. We decided to make amendments to our M1 district to allow assisted living facilities as special exceptions. That would fall under this category, and that means that they would still be required to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception use. It wouldn't be a permitted use by right. It would still require public meetings and a level of scrutiny before someone could just come in and open an assisted living facility. In addition, some language that I guess this came to you last meeting, I wasn't here, I apologize for that. There were some recommendations for additional language to be added to this regarding that the facilities could only be one story, had to be 100 beds or less, and 60,000 square feet or less. For the time being, I'm comfortable with that language. We'll leave it in there. Myself and staff, we're going to go back and look at other zoning ordinances in other communities and figure out what the best practices are. We're going to come up with more of a density-based approach to number of beds per acre or square footage per acre, and not just 100 beds or less or 60,000 square feet or less. But for the time being, I feel like this protects the neighborhoods for what we want to accomplish.
Shane, what's the permitted, what zoning is this an automatic permitted use?
M3. The issue with that is most people don't, and even council and planning commission don't want to upzone properties to M3 because they're our most dense multifamily. Neighborhoods, for a lot of obvious reasons, don't want to have dense housing next to them. They want to try to keep it at either an M1 or an M2. So that it's difficult for an assisted living facility to go somewhere and locate as a permitted use, and it would have to be an M3. We've got very little M3 zoning throughout the entire city. And this is
one area.
Here's a map of all of our existing multifamily. Blue is M1, and that's the one that we would be affecting. We'd be offering it up as a special exception within those parcels that are blue. M2, it is currently already exists as a special exception use, and M3, which we have very little of, it's a permitted use. Again, you'll be hearing from me soon to come back with a...
No, there's, yeah, don't confuse me like you did.
Public hearing still open.
I'm going to open that up right now. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here who wants to speak for or against this? Please come forward, speak your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, I'm officially closing the public hearing.
This is in my district, this is in my district, and the neighbors have worked with the, and looked at the zoning and are comfortable with this, and with that, I'll make a motion that we pass 2015 OR 15.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2015 OR 15. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Now, is it you or Mr. Merkley? Okay, Mr. Merkley. And the council, there is a public hearing with this, and this is for rezone for 426 East 7th Street from an R3 to an NC.
This is the, I don't know if the applicant's here or not. Is it Mr. McKeon? This is the Buckets Bar and Grill on 7th Street. This is a little different situation. The actual bar is zoned commercial, and they had an addition to the property for years, if you've ever been in there. The new owners purchased the bar, they tore down the addition. The Buckets was sitting on two separate lots. Where Buckets is, the actual Buckets as it sits today is commercial. Where the addition was is residential. So they tore down the addition. It lost its grandfather clause because they have not done anything for several months, almost a year, isn't it, Shane? Almost a year. So they have to have that property rezoned so they can finish the project, which I believe on that property is going to be a patio, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're asking that this property be zoned neighborhood commercial. Right now it's R3. So, and
I know Mr. Smith and myself, and maybe Dennis and Nathan, have all had complaints on this particular piece of property. But I think the complaints stem from the condition of the property versus the use. I think generally the neighbors around there are okay with this use as long as they improve the condition of the property in a more timely manner than they have. And the Plan Commission seemed to really emphasize that at their meeting on Tuesday to the property owner, that things need to move along and in the rehab of this property so that it looks better for the neighbors.
Yeah, I haven't, I never received any, about this rezone, any negative comments. And I know, and just like Mr. Owen and has talked a little bit about, this has been ongoing for several years. I'm talking about moving equipment in, keeping it on the street. All last year, there was a hole probably 2 foot deep off the sidewalk that held water all summer. So, you know, I think something obviously needs to be done, no question. I just want to make sure, and I did talk briefly to Shane, to make sure that this guy has a fire under him, because we don't want it, a couple 2x4s to go up and 6 months later another. You know, I don't have the answer for that, but if approved, I want planning and zoning to be aggressive, and I think they will be, to make sure that this gentleman moves forward with this project, because the neighbors had fought this for a year or two, and
I agree, and I was down there the other day, they have poured the slab, which has cleaned it up. It's amazing how much better it looks like just getting the concrete.
that's been probably a year and a half.
It has, it has.
So.
But I agree with you.
It definitely needs to be addressed, and I hope, but I haven't had any negative phone calls on this at all.
Make a motion to approve
Public
2000.
hearing.
Oh, sorry.
At this
trying to
moment,
keep us moving.
I'd like to open up public hearing. Is everybody here to wish to speak on the rezoning on the property located at 426 East 7th Street? Okay, seeing none, I'll officially close public hearing.
Motion to approve 2015 OR 16.
Second.
Got a motion, a second to approve 2015 OR 16. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Do we have the report from our city council attorney?
I have nothing for tonight.
I believe we have under the council board commission reports, Marty, you wanted to speak? Marty Chaffron. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, okay.
Where's mine?
You need to sign this.
Here, Ed's already, we've already read it.
No, I have to have one for the record.
Here, you take this one, Ed, we've already read it.
President Gill asked me to be brief because of the length of the meeting tonight, so I'll kind of go through the highlights of what is before you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. At last redevelopment meeting, there was a Department of Local Government Finance report approved. Based on the numbers provided in the report, the TIF spent $756,972 more than they took in last year. The redevelopment operating account overspent $136,000. Forgivable loans and grants paid from the TIF but that do not appear in the TIF expenditures added another $103,000. These numbers total about $1 million. On the cash summary ending balance, if you look at, in my mind, when we look at this, we take the beginning balance plus the revenue minus the expenditures gives us what we have the ending balance or our reserves or savings going in the next year. One of the things on the cash summary balance that I noticed, the false TIF landing was off by about $339,000. Concern there is that I think a couple of the others were off, but it was off one of the largest to the negative of us. So when we look at this, we overspent last year, and we've got a few questions about the actual savings accounts moving forward.
What will it take for, you said you still have some questions. Now, where do you get the questions answered? Does that come from LDGF? I mean, what do you have to do to get them final numbers?
I think the questions will probably be answered when I have a chance to meet with Amy Deering. Amy was kind enough to meet with me once when I was first appointed, but we did not get a chance during the meeting to discuss those particular issues. So I know she's buried with State Board of Accounts, so do our best to get that taken care of. On the TIF 2015 projections, there are two reports that the Redevelopment Commission receives that show revenues and expense obligations. The first is the TIF summary, which shows the projected income and expenditures by each account. The second is the contract summary that shows actual contracts amounts, the change orders, and the current balances. There's a copy of the Intercity Road TIF report that was presented in the January meeting in your packet. The reason I reference January is because it probably gives us a good start of where we actually were at the beginning of the year. One of the concerns that I have is that in the reports that we get just for the projections, it seems to indicate that the projections indicate a annual based revenue, but a less than annual based debt service. Now what that does is it makes it appear that we have more money available than we do. I don't know why that is, but that is what is reported to us in these reports. You also have a copy of two reports, Falls Landing and the Intercity Road TIF, and then what I call the smaller TIFs, which is the Vogt Gallup Star. What I tried to do was, based on the contract summary information, based on the claims information that we have, to try and come out with what I believe is a pretty good representation of the annual dollars that we can expect, less the debt service, and then come out with what I would call a gross available amount. If you look at it, I kind of look at it as a household budget. You got your paycheck coming in, you got your mortgage that you got to pay, and what the gross available dollars would be was what you have left to pay for your contractual obligations. Now, contractual obligations, if you're looking at a household account, I'd say they were your insurance, your car payment, things that you have made commitments to throughout that year. One thing that is a concern is that if you look in the Falls Landing TIF, or excuse me, if you look in the Intercity Road TIF, the gross available dollars for 2015 after the debt service is about $7.2 million. Now, if you look at the obligations for 2015, now that's what is presented to us, those obligations for that year, we've got about $10.6 million in obligations, plus then we added another $200,000 in this past month. So it appears to me that we got $7 million in money and we've got over $10 million in obligations. I also note that this TIF overspent $284,000. So the concern is that we're upside down going into 2015, and it looks like, just based on the information that we are provided, we're already $1.5 million to $2 million upside down in this one TIF going forward. Also, in the February Intercity Road TIF report that we've got, our reserves were listed at the beginning of this year at $13.2 million. Within the next 22 months, those reserves go to $1.2 million. That is without any annual deficit spending, and that includes income from the tax receipts and any reimbursements from NDOT. That's a major concern, and it's probably a burn rate of about $500,000 a month. And I'm not real clear on where all that money is going. Let's see here, excuse me.
And that information you will be able to get that information from Amy at some point, sitting down and working through the process? Yes,
I think we need to sit down and figure out exactly where all the stuff is going. But I will say that what we are being presented and what we as a commission make decisions on and have to vote on is the information right here. And right now, we're 12 million in reserves gone. We're $2 million above contractual liability, above what we got in the bank. And so we make decisions based upon those numbers.
Do you know, excuse me just a minute.
Sure.
We borrowed for Intercity Road and Falls Landing, I believe, in 2012, to pay back for the properties purchased from the water conveyance system. $10 million, and I think $8 million went into Intercity and $2 million went into Falls Landing.
Okay.
And if the 8 is in this number, then that is alarming. I mean, if we've gone, you know what I'm getting at, if there's not only your normal income, but an $8 million loan and a $2 million loan. So, but it almost has to include that, I would think.
The other thing we have, we receive a contract summary, and basically that lists all the contractual obligations that we have, any change orders, what's been paid, and basically what the balance is. There's something that came up, and what I've done is the City of Jeff website has the public available documents, and so you can go on their website and search through and find fully executed contracts for various projects and various things. One of the things that I discovered was there's a $414,000 contract for brownfield assessment, and that wasn't listed on our contract summary. In the meeting, the grant administrator indicated that that was paid for a grant, but there was no amount of the grant given. Hopefully in the next meeting or between now and the next meeting, we'll be able to find out just exactly how much that is. But that document was executed in September of last year, and we're now into March of 15, and we still haven't seen it on our contract summary, despite the fact it was signed by the President of Redevelopment. The other thing is there's a Big Four contract for engineering, and it was with Beam, Longest, and Neff. And again, this was on the city database. The total amount was for $260,000 after the change orders were done. One of the things noted on it, it's between the Redevelopment Commission and the Board of Public Works. Redevelopment paid all the money out of it. Now, I would ask council, whoever the Board of Public Works representative is, just to be prudent, to make sure somebody didn't actually send us a bill to both places. Can we find out if Board of Public Works make sure they did not pay any of that, because we paid all of it from redevelopment? They didn't.
That'd be mad.
Right. And
Yeah.
the Board of Public Works is the contracting entity for the city.
Mhm.
So regardless of where the money came from, it would have come through the board anyway, am I right?
Okay. All right. I just, when I see contracts with two different entities, I want to make sure we're not double paying.
Contracting entity, but we don't have a budget.
Okay.
We rely on the council and the redevelopment to fund any contracts that we...
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Heavy Haul Road. There was a request for $750,000 of additional funds. It was approved. It will come out of the 4 small TIFs. This adds to the city's current commitment of $2.6 million. Discussion on the total project cost indicated that the best guess is now about $30 million. In your packet, you have a copy off the NDOT website of what the project definition was, signed back in 2013, indicating that it was about $18.9 million. It was also in the discussions that we had that the final amount will not be known until interlocal agreements are negotiated between the city, county, port, and River Ridge. We don't know what the total amount's going to be, and to the best of my knowledge, we don't know what our obligation is going to be as a city. Concern again here is 18 months ago, the cost was 18.9, it's now 30, and I don't think we have a handle on what the final number is going to be. Next item is Gateway. Gateway Develop, I'm sorry.
we go back to that road real quick?
Sure.
Does when you say you don't know what the obligation is, you mean for redevelopment? Or you mean for the cost? Because it's probably a amended plan had an amount, or...
We know what the obligation is. The obligation is what's stated in the interlocal agreement that we have with various entities. And that amount goes up, interlocal.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Changes that will be approved by this.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But we don't have to approve it if it
Or you
gets
don't have
out.
to approve it. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Sorry, go.
Oh, that's fine. Gateway, the Gateway developer presentations are March the 4th from 2 to 5, and you all have a schedule. One of the things that came up in the Gateway RFP, there apparently are 2 parcels that the Redevelopment Commission cannot sell because they are deed restricted, and there is 1 parcel that was not titled in the name or to the benefit of the Redevelopment Commission. Les indicated in the meeting that I think that's through the Board of Public Works that he's going to have the title issue cleared up. But my experience has been noticing and title are always things that trip up a lot of very smart people. The RFP does not include the former R&W tire station. And what I'll do is I'll put this. Can I go? Can you? How'd I do? I'm sorry. What I need to do? Okay. Flip it over. Oh, sorry. Better? Here, I'll just take it. No, it's fine. I just need to take it out of the casing. Is that fine? Is that better?
Mm-hmm. It's fine.
Okay. And you all have a copy of this in your package. It does not include this parcel here, okay? City paid, based on the city GIS website and then publicly available documents at the recorder's office, the city paid $355,000. Each proposal or each of the proposals that were brought forth by developers include a building on that parcel. So I think moving forward, we got to make sure what our plan is for that parcel and what we're going to factor in the taxpayer dollars that we pay. All of the proposals expect to deduct any environmental remediation costs from the price. One proposal also deducts the land allocated for the pond. Now again, these are initial proposals, but I think we need to be prepared for this is kind of the tone that's going to be taken on some of these projects, on this project. We do not we have not quantified what the environmental remediation is. So we don't know what that number will be. We have said that we will be passing it on to the developer. However, I think it probably helps us to know what that number would be moving forward. There was some questions about whether the project is in a TIF. Rob was going to investigate that. If you look at, this is a TIF map, and they seem to intersect down there, but there's a big chunk that's not in the TIF. And this is off the GIS site again, when you go to try and find out TIF maps through the state. And we just need to find out whether it's in a TIF, because I think a lot of us are assuming that it is, and Rob had indicated he was going to be finding that out. Public records indicate that the total price paid for the properties is $4.5 million. A list of the properties, the prices, the sale dates are included in your package. This list is from the GIS and the Recorder's Office of available public documents. The road improvement estimate is $3.2 million. That has been provided from JTL. So what we're looking at probably is about a $7.7 million total taxpayer investment. One of the things that was brought up in the meeting was what is the benefit to the taxpayer? Have we done any kind of analysis to say what's the property taxes, what's the TIF rate, what is the benefit to the taxpayers? I think we all would agree that they've got $7.5 to $8 million into this. I think we need to do some kind of financial analysis to determine what that is. We've got a great asset called River Ridge, and it's my understanding that at River Ridge, when they look at selling a piece of property, they do an extensive analysis to determine what the payroll tax, what the TIF revenue, what the tax revenue, anything that they can come up with to determine what the return and what the return will be to River Ridge. So hopefully we will be able to do that moving forward.
I think Southern Indiana also has that software program that takes the input of a project cost and gives you that economic impact for the area. So that may be the tool to use for this project. I think it's
again, my concern is that we're putting out RFPs technically for land for 2 pieces of property that we cannot sell. We are looking to bring in developers to do presentations without knowing what the remediation issue is. And we're also have no idea what the financial impact will be, so that we can possibly back into a price that eventually we would say, all right, here's a number that I think maybe we can live with or not. Or, what kind of return do the taxpayers deserve?
Les, this was discussed before Marty got on the board, but is the Phase 1 interceptor line still anticipated being paid by redevelopment to go in here if this is developed?
The last decision redevelopment made was
They were going to, and that was $1.5 million or something?
close to $2 million, I think.
Close to 2.
Gotta speed this up, Marty.
Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry.
We're about halfway
Okay.
through, it looks like.
Former American Legion site, RFP was sent out. You have the information before you. Again, the appraisal was for 702. Total land cost that the taxpayers paid was $1.2 million. The RFP suggests a residential project. You're aware of the nursing home tax abatement. Big Four maintenance contract is listed there for the amount and for the term. So I'm sorry I took a little longer than I thought.
What's the DLGF report?
I'm sorry, where are you?
He spoke on that.
You already spoke on all of that, okay.
Huh?
Okay, thank you very much.
I had a question for Marty. Toward the beginning, I thought, painted a somewhat bleak picture of the, maybe to use your words, a burn-through rate of our TIF balances. And I know there's a lot of discussion about additional projects coming on, and the comments about that are we're going to pay cash for those projects.
Mhm.
Are you saying that you don't think we can pay cash for those projects, or what do I take away from what you just told me?
Well, my concern is based on the numbers provided us. Our savings goes down 12 million, and our revenue and reimbursements that we will spend in that same period of time totals about 18 million. So in my simple understanding of this, that's $30 million over the next 2 years out of the one intercity road TIF. Based on the February report that we have that shows that burn rate on reserves and the income that is allotted for that. So, does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
So it just seems like if the money's not there, then you as a redevelopment commission are going to be faced with trying to figure out how to pay for it. And I'm just curious. I'm assuming that has not been discussed yet.
No, it has not.
Okay. Thank you for informing us.
Yes, thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Is there any department heads here that need to, okay, Mr. Ways?
Thank you.
If you can turn this on. And then if somebody could get me a life preserver because it looks like the ship is sinking. Well, it's not. So, Amy's here. She does an excellent job with the finance. This is his financial report that he's come up with by being on the commission for the past 2 months. So I believe what we probably need to do is sit down and have a joint session. And because he brought up a lot of different things, but the TIFs are solvent. This is the area that you're looking at that we did with the RFP, the Gateway development. So if you can kind of take a look at that and just let me know, is that how you want our Gateway to look? I would hope not. We have a great opportunity to get probably a $25, $30 million investment in that area. So, you know, redevelopment does spend money. We have to spend money in order to make things better. I mean, if you take a look at what we did with buying the homes down there on at the Big Four station. I mean, you talk about a major turnaround for our whole city. I mean, we're having people come in from all parts of Louisville that's never been into Jeffersonville. They like what they see. Sure, we spend money to help bring restaurants in. Brought in 4 new restaurants and a couple of new microbreweries. You know, things are turning around, you know. And he brought up, unfortunately, about how the police station, we overspent with the police station bond at the last meeting. Well, unfortunately, me and Amy spent a ton of time on Friday to go over all that. And just so, because I don't know if he's talked to you or not about how we overspent, but this will clear it up exactly where we started at, what money has been spent, where it was spent, shows on here, I believe, at the very beginning. I won't take up too much of your time because really I think the biggest thing that we need to do is make sure that we sit down with Amy, we have a joint session with redevelopment, we get this straightened out, instead of having somebody come up here twice now to sit there and just talk badly about the redevelopment department with all the good things that we've gotten done. But with the police station TIF, it shows we started out with a little over $10 million. If you go to page 2, it shows where the $10 million has come from. I made sure it's very easy to look at as you go down. Expenditures in 2013, 14, and 15, and then also the outstanding liabilities that we have. Total of that equals a little over $9.9 million.
Is that the total cost of the police station?
Yes.
9.9? I thought our budget was 6.8.
Yeah.
Well, but, okay, we'll go ahead, Rob.
Okay.
Figure out where you're...
So, which leaves us an estimated balance of $167,000. We spent what we spent within our means. On the third page, this just shows you the original budget amount for AML, Construction Solutions, TEG, Time Warner. It shows you the change orders, the revised amount. All of these amounts equal to the expenditures that you have on page 1. I don't expect you, I laid this out as easily as possible. And you know what? I don't expect you all to sit there and get it. Not that quick. Same way as you shouldn't get what he just came up, riddled off about 50 things, and then sat down. There's no way you all can understand that. So all I'm asking for is that we sit down and go over this and not try to make a spectacle of the redevelopment department. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rob. Sure.
What?
Oh, thanks.
I would like, Rob, I do think we need to know where we are on the police station.
Just gave it to you.
I understand that. I was going to ask another question. But are you saying with furnishings and that was not in the
Furnishings.
6.8? That, I know when we sat down with Les in 2013, they were asking for an $11 million bond for the police station. And we asked what the budget was for the police station without the land, because the land was going to be included, I guess, paid back out of the bond. But we were told that to build the police station was $6.8 million.
I wasn't there. I have no idea.
Okay.
All I know
Is it cost
right
9.9?
here's where it says AML. Original contract amount was this. These are the different change orders. It came out to the total amount for AML, $7,143,831.
And then we had construction solutions for
Construction solutions for the total amount. You have to look over here with the different change orders, $252,090.
Yeah, on here it's got 127. It's only got 127 on here.
Now, you have to, this is expenditures in 2013. You have to
Okay.
add that, expenditures in
And that one, okay.
2014, and also
Well,
2000,
there wasn't
there wasn't
anything
any
there.
2015. So if you add those figures up, those figures are going to equal what the contract amount is right here. I'll be more than happy to sit down with any of y'all at any time. I've actually asked Marty the same thing to sit down with me. He hasn't yet.
Do you know what we paid for the
So-
property there? The two pieces?
I think it was a little over $1 million.
Well, I know we paid $1 million to,
It was $1 million to Blue, and it was $250 to Cap Hammer,
so
$250,000.
1.250.
So $1,250,000 is what we paid for it. That is why whenever you look on expenditures, 2013 under miscellaneous vendors, why that number's 1.5 million is because the cost of land is in that.
Okay.
If you need any further breakdowns on the miscellaneous vendors, be more than happy to. I just want to make it as simple as possible. Up there on the second floor, need anything whatsoever, we're there.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
you, Mr. West.
Thanks.
I'll try to be brief. I know it's been a long meeting. I would just like to have the opportunity to say I don't appreciate the insinuation that the financials are incorrect. The TIFs are in a very strong position. We are sitting on approximately $11 million at the current time, just in the two large TIFs. I'm available to meet and discuss any questions or concerns at any time, and I want to be transparent with all the boards so you can see where we are. If given the opportunity, I could explain every question that was just brought up. So just wanted to put that out there. And my office works very hard to provide those spreadsheets outside of maintaining the ledger so the board can make informed decisions. And there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of estimates, but I feel very confident that they're accurate. So just wanted to have the opportunity to say that.
Amy, I'd like to schedule a meeting with you and Rob, and I would like Marty Sheffrin up there, please.
Okay.
I don't know what's in his reports. till they're put in front of us.
I
So
didn't receive that report, so.
If you just want to put
Looks
out
like
an,
he took everything
pardon?
Looks like he took everything off the DGLF or something.
Okay, thank you.
Amy, what's the balance of the inner city road in Falls Lane? How much is the one?
That's fine.
And how much, are those, what I thought I heard him say, those are committed for next year? I thought, again, I just got his report, so I'm just trying to piece what I heard. He said,
So are those
that's what we
funds
have in
committed?
balances, but they're going to be expended next year. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I thought I heard him say.
Again, between the two major TIFs, Intercity Road and Falls Lane, and as today, we have a balance of $11 million. Obviously, we're going to continue to collect money between now and next year. Assuming all projects that are slated by the Redevelopment Commission occurs, and the 10th Street project occurs, yes, there would be a balance next year of a little over $1 million in the Intercity Road TIF. Now, the one reason why the balance drops is because the 10th Street project requires, it's a $9 million project, and it requires all the money to be paid up front and delivered to NDOT. Okay, so that's the reason you have a drop in that TIF, the Intercity Road, next year. And again, that's also assuming that all these projects that are slated by the Redevelopment Commission occurs this year on time and as the engineers estimate that they're going to cost. This grant, the grant is a 100% grant. There's no obligation. The Brownfield grant is no obligation from redevelopment. That's why it's not on the balance sheet. The deed restrictions, the 10th and Spring Street project, the RFPs went out. It specifically stated in at least two places in the RFP that there are certain parcels that have covenants and have deed restrictions. There are two parcels, so the proposers are under notice that they have those restrictions. Yes, R&W Tire was not in the RFP because the appraisal that was done and was a result of the court settlement did not include the R&W property. Redevelopment did not include that property because it's being retained for a separate RFP or possibly to be used as an entrance into the city, which I believe was a plan 2 or 3 years ago prior to this administration. Clark County Auditor's Office anticipates and projects that a $24 million project at 10th and Spring is going to result in $1 million, in at least $1 million per year in tax revenue, either property taxes or income taxes. So, and again, there's a difference between the reports that are prepared by the Finance Department and reports prepared by commissioners.
Can I ask a question? How much of that would go into the TIF? That you just said, the auditor's office, the 10th?
How much goes in the TIF, I don't know, but yeah, but
For all the $1 million, would you?
pardon?
You wouldn't kill with this.
No, but you're going to capture income tax.
Yeah, but you
No,
wouldn't
but I
capture
meant,
all. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's okay. I just wondered, because some of it will go back into the TIF.
That's great. It would go back into the TIF.
For solvent.
yes,
That was my.
yes, go back in the TIF. And the TIF is expending money to develop the property. The idea is that you spend TIF dollars to help develop property, then you capture that money to go back into the TIF. That's the point of TIFs.
Okay. Council comments, Mr. Smith.
I'm sorry, Lisa, I wanted to say under department heads, we're under department heads, is that right?
Okay.
Real quick, I know it's been a terribly long meeting. I just wanted to recognize some people. We had a fire Friday night, right over here at East Lawn Arms, down here at 8th and Nahan. The police department did a magnificent job of keeping the crowd controlled. We had 8 units involved, actually 8 units displaced, more units than that were actually involved in the fire. It was a kitchen fire. It started on the bottom level, moved up to the front, to the top level. The street department came out, spread salt at the scene. We were under conditions, I think it was 24 degrees, with the already snow-covered parking lot, so that was a great help. The Red Cross did work with 8 families and getting them relocated, or that's really the wrong word, getting them some help in the meantime until the apartment owner gets them placed. Bubby Vissing, I want to talk about Bubby. Bubby brought the trolley out there. I tell you, without Bubby, he was there for about 7 hours of his Friday night. I hope he didn't have any plans. with that trolley, which has a great heater on it, but for the guys, for the displaced families, he then transported them down to the Red Cross on 8th and Colonial, waited outside in the trolley for them to get done with their paperwork, transported them back to where they needed to go. I just wanted to make sure that if you guys see Bubby, we do appreciate Bubby. I think that's above and beyond what is expected of a vehicle maintenance person. So I think Bubby did a great job in helping us out. He always has. The fire crews did great. Yellow Ambulance was there. They had 2 units. I just wanted the council to know that we have a great working team on a situation like that, and it's all really contributed toward you guys and the training that we do that you don't see happen very much of. But behind the scenes, some of that coordination, some of the training between not just the departments coming, but the guys worked like a well-oiled machine. I don't know if anybody's seen the interview on WHAS that the one guy that commented on how the guys were working. But we have a tremendous team, and they were on display Friday night and did a great job. But I just wanted to bring that to the council. Didn't think it'd take me 2.5 hours to get up here, though. But any questions?
I had it during my comments, which I was going to public thank everybody, because it's my understanding that even the street department did a lot to aid you all that night. You were under harsh conditions, and I applaud each and every one of them, because I seen right before I came to this meeting the email that was sent out by the Red Cross. I know they really appreciated Bubby, and so I just want to publicly thank everybody involved.
And the police department, I mentioned them first, they were there the entire event. They helped us with crowd control, street traffic. It really went well.
Great teamwork.
Yeah, it worked out well. No injuries to the staff. We had 4 people get transported to the hospital from the units. All of them were released that evening. No major injuries, just some smoke inhalation and then a cut on someone's foot that would come out a window. But all right, any more questions about the fire department while I'm here? I know you probably know them from. Got no questions about anything.
Great job. Please pass
All
on
right.
your gratitude. All right, Mr. Zestine.
The one lady who spoke about the parks projects, I think a lot of those were good questions, but I think they're all premature. We don't know what property we might purchase. We don't know what we're going to build. So I think a lot of her questions were good questions, but way premature. So,
Mr. Radsworth?
Nothing to add?
Councilor Sellers? Councilperson Webb? Councilperson Julius?
Yeah, I will. Marty, we have asked Marty to report to us from the redevelopment commission. And Les, I guess this is a question for you. Redevelopment, as of last year in July, is supposed to be providing us some information as far as, I know you have to provide us a plan anyway, but some of your reports and budgets, when will we?
I think we've provided all the, I think there's a report coming up this June or August. I know there's a report due, so we
ever saw the budget.
yeah, but right now I think it's due sometime this summer. The budget, the statute that the legislature adopted says that if redevelopment has a budget, it's to be submitted to the city council or the legislative body for review. It's my understanding redevelopment has not adopted a budget as of right now, and when and if it's adopted, it would be submitted to the city council for review. It does not say approval, it says review.
Can I just say, I don't think it says exactly when you say like if they have a budget. I think it requires them.
I disagree.
And I agree that it doesn't say that they have.
Why wouldn't you have a budget?
I'm not saying, no, first of all, I'm not saying whether or not you should or should not have a budget. I'm just telling you what the statute says. Okay, the statute, there's a loophole, well, there's a loophole in the statute, and again, but there is no requirement in the redevelopment statute that there be a budget.
Okay, well, Les, I think that's part
And I'm not debating whether or not there should be one. I'm just saying we have complied with all the requirements pursuant to the statute.
I disagree. However,
again, I have a law degree that says we have.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you do. But what I'm saying is the discrepancy that we had here tonight with Marty saying something and you guys taking up, I think that's part of it. I think there needs to be more transparency in what's going on with redevelopment, where the dollars are. This is the first time that we have seen anything on the police station, and I guarantee you, if it hadn't been discussed, we wouldn't have that document tonight.
Well, I know at every redevelopment meeting, there is an update on the finances, specifically on the police.
Well, but
Police
Rob
station.
just said he spent 2 hours with Amy, or Friday afternoon, many hours, trying to put together the final.
If I recall at the last redevelopment meeting I had in front of me, the packet and the document said that we had, assuming all liabilities were paid that were outstanding, we'd have a balance of
All I'm saying
$144,000.
is, it would be much easier if we would all, if we would work together on these things. That's the only thing that I
I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and the
But if we don't
reports
know
that are
what they
submitted to the,
Which we don't. It's still.
Is that all you had?
Yes, sir.
Councilperson Owen?
Nothing.
Councilperson Samuel?
I do have one real quick thing.
Oh, Nate.
Oh, come on, Nathan.
It'll be quicker once we get this up, real quick.
Oh, he's got a
Got his
slideshow.
art.
No, it's just, no, on February the 7th, some of the members of the Public Art Commission went to Nashville, Tennessee, and we were able to meet with Jennifer Cole, who is the Nashville Arts Director. That's a position by the city. And we had just a great meeting with her and had a lot of information there. We went to a place called Oz. You can Google it. I won't tell you about that. But it was an awesome place where a man, there's an artist in residency there that's from this area. And we're looking at maybe having him do a large sculptural piece down on the river when we get the boat docks in. It'll be really neat. Went to a place called Cheekwood. It's they have all kinds of different art pieces on this huge 40-plus acre plantation, almost a huge facility. Then we did an art crawl, it was called that night. We got a lot of experience, a lot of ideas, and those are some potential bike racks in the downtown, things that I wanted to show. Those are in Nashville, and you can't see them really well, but we have some great things that are coming to Jeff. And our berm project that's just right out here, you can see through the window. Within 2 weeks, you're going to see the first piece of that go up, and then every few days, you're going to see the next piece. You'll see it over a period of less than a month. It'll be full. So those are exciting things, positive things. So I want to end on a positive note, and that's my report.
So how many times did you eat? I have a few things. Well, I did want to publicly thank the fire department, the police department, and the street department, which I already had done that, and that the JNLA has a trivia night on April 10th. As you all remember, we bought a table last year, so I wanted to put that forth to see if the city council was going to purchase a table or not. In tonight's claims, you saw that the mayor purchased a table, so it's $120 or it's $15 per, but it's a table for 8.
I'll make a motion to buy a table for $120 per table.
Second.
I will make sure you get something on this. So I got a motion and a second by the table for JNL Trivia Night. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I hate to not end on a positive note, but I don't know what in the heck just happened in that report, but I will get to the bottom of all that. So if Amy, if you do, will send out that meeting, if any other council, I know I can have 3 others beside myself, just let me know who wants to participate in that. And then also in the, actually my dad made me bring this up, in the Courier Journal, there was an article about how we have 2 interns. And so my dad calls me this morning and he wanted to know why we did away with the chief of staff position. I said, Dad, what are you talking about? So he read me the whole article, and I informed him, and I want to inform the public, we do not have a chief of staff. We haven't had it since I've been on the council. Connie, we had it since you've been on?
Not for the 12 years that I've been on the council.
Okay, so I just wanted the public to know we do not have a chief of staff position, and by that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.